Hi, welcome to the guitar tutorial for The Mute by Radical Face. This is a finger picking and strumming tutorial where I'll just take you through the basics of the whole intro part and then how the chords are played for the verses and such. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get your capo here on fret 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, did that right. Okay. And the basic structure of the song is centered around G. It's in the key of G, so it's going to be pretty important that you finger the G in this way with the ring finger on the 3rd fret of the E string, and then your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, and then your pinky on the G fret of the high E. And of course I'm talking about G relative to where this is, so just if you pretend that it's an open chord, that would be the G, right? It's the 3rd fret. Alright, so there's a basic finger picking pattern that it actually holds for most of the whole picking part, despite how eclectic it sounds. There is one sort of core pattern that you can remember. So it sounds like this, right? And that kind of continues in a way that pattern. It's like so if you practice with these 3 fingers doing this pattern, that's going to help you a lot. So it's like, if you think about these fingers as 1, 2, 3, it's like 1, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, right? And the way that translates is kind of your thumbs walking between low notes while your index and middle fingers kind of play these accent notes, like. So my ring finger and middle finger are staying on the same strings for pretty much this whole thing, and my thumb is alternating between the E string and the D string, and then it will alternate to different strings as we go. So these frets up here are just open, but like so you start on the G here, then you go to the D with the thumb, and then you're playing these open notes right here. Back to the thumb where it is, then the thumb goes back down. So you do one cycle of that, and then you're going to go to the A string, which is going to start open. So I have the G fingered here, but you actually start with this string. You can start with it open. You can hold your finger there for memory if you want for the beginning part, but it's going to go like this. Open to hammer on, right? The important part, it kind of creates in my mind, it creates kind of the whole beauty of this riff here, are these hammer on notes. So these 3 are remaining open through that whole thing. And they kind of are always those ones that you return to, besides whenever you're playing that first low note with your thumb. So without the low notes, it's actually really simple. It's just these 3 open strings. Think of it like this: low note, low note, low note, low note. with me? So once again, first part, second part. Yeah, and as you can see, you do go back down to that G after you hammer on. So instead of going up to the D, you go down to the G. But it's the same pattern with the thumb. It's the same tempo. So that's the first two kind of riffs there. You got 2. So this is where it changes up a little bit. You start doing a hammer on with this note up here. So first one, second one, third one is. So it's the same, right? We're kind of keeping the same structure, but instead of having a low note interspersed there, you're going to be going. So you're hammering onto the 1, then hammering off. Alright, so all 3 parts together now. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Alright, so that is all on your first chord. So that is all just the first G chord. And the intro goes through kind of a 4-chord transition, but the first 2 are the hardest. The first one is the most complicated. So we got through the first one. Let's hear it now, all together. Ready? I'm gonna play it a little slow. Try to play along. So the next chord is a C. So it starts, it's kind of like a C major 7, which is just those 2 notes. You just have to hold those 2. So you go from the G low there to the C here. Just move each finger up 1, and you're not just going to strum it out like that. There's a finger picking pattern, so it's like. It goes to. So you got that familiar pattern there. It's basically the same thing with the strum, with the plucking hand. That's the first part. Second part, you're going to hammer on just like you did with the G before. You're going to hammer on the D string this time instead of A. And then you're going to go down just like you did before. Go down to like when you went down to the G. Now you're just going down to the C. So once again, there's really only 2 parts here, just and then. So that's the C. It's pretty easy once you have the finger picking pattern down from the G part. So I'm gonna do them all together now with the G and the C slowly, like before. So, like I said before, there's 4 chords. C was the second chord. The third chord is an E minor. So you can kind of just switch these fingers like this. That's what I do. And so what you're going to do here, you're not actually hammering on anything. You're just going to, it's this one's like the easiest one that you're actually going to be finger picking, because the D, that's going to be the fourth one we'll get to in a second. There's not even finger picking on that one. But so the C, from there you're just going to switch into the E, and you can take a second to transition because this note is just going to be open anyway. So you can play that during the transition. So, I mean, you really could stay on the C here because this is the only note you're using. You actually have to hold down for the E. I just do both out of habit because that's the chord. But and then right from here, this is important. You get it like a smooth transition from the E minor to the D back to the G. Let me show you. That's that Radical Face trademark strum pattern. Really beautiful strumming pattern, and it's very essential in this song. So I'm going to go over the strumming pattern now. You're going to be playing the bass note with your thumb, then plucking up with your index finger, like that. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. So your index finger is kind of gentle, but also kind of attacking the strings. The thumb is really only there to provide the initial root strum, just a thrum on the lowest note. And this goes for pretty much all the strumming throughout the song, because later it turns into this. Right? Sorry, the guitar's a little bit out of tune. But you need to get that finger picking pattern down. That's like a big part of this song as far as playing on guitar. Maybe even more important than the whole finger picking intro, is being able to do that strum pattern, because that's going to accent the vocals. That's going to make the whole thing, the whole chord structure, the whole melody just melt together if you can get that pattern down. So going from the E, thumb up, down, up, thumb up, down, up. So that's the whole intro really right there. We're going to go over a little small change that happens with the G chord when you do it the second time. But basically that's your first run through of the whole intro. All right, so that little note there, that's what I'm referring to as the D. It's a D/F sharp major. That would be like the full chord. Right? I'm doing is just, for most of this song, I'm only playing, at least when I strum, I'm only playing the bottom 3 notes, maybe 4. But it's kind of fine if it's just open like that. Okay. So yeah, that you kind of pass right over the D there. It's just a transition back to the G. The second time you run through is exactly the same, except for one little thing. And that's that hammer-on part. So when you get to that part, so it's like... When you get there, you're gonna hammer on the same way here. You're gonna hammer onto the 1, but then instead of pulling off, you're gonna hammer up to the 3 with this pinky finger. So you're gonna get that pinky finger under there and hammer up to the 3 like this. So from the beginning, that just the beginning of the second run through of the progression would look like this. Then the rest is the same. All right, so that is the intro. The intro is not the only important thing to know about the song, however, as I alluded to earlier and kind of explained in quick detail, the strumming pattern. And if you have that down, if you're totally good on the strumming pattern, then there's not much else you need to know besides some little transitions that I like to throw in, but they're not really, they're not super necessary. But you'll be pretty good from here on out if you know the strumming pattern. So the verses of the song, basically what you need to know about the strumming is every time you change chords, you're going to throw in just the root with your thumb. But then the rest is just your index finger kind of plucking and strumming down, then plucking. And I don't always pluck on the up. Sometimes it's just a strum up. That's fine. I mean, it's folk music. It's going to get kind of like messy and strummy in there. That's fine. But those root notes, however quiet they are, they add just the right touch. I'm telling you, it's so important to get those in there. They're really like the cornerstone of this whole pattern, but also the whole song in a greater sense, I think. Getting those little ones in. So you're gonna throw in the thumb basically once per measure, if you will, once per bar, or or every time you change chords. So you want to, when you're walking down, you see how the thumb strums more often when I'm walking down. Those are the chords for the verse. It starts at the E minor. I mean, after you finish the strumming pattern, after you finish it, it's going to be like, it's going to start on the G, then you're going to walk down. Well, as a child, I mostly spoke inside my head. Had conversations with the clouds, the dogs are dead. So what I'm doing there is so you start on the E minor.
Well, as a child, I mostly spoke.
So spoke comes on a C, which obviously the classic C chord would look like that. But since I'm playing the low notes, since this song, the guitar chimes in kind of low, like bassy, and I want that lowest possible note in there, that's going to be a G for this C chord. So I throw in that ring finger down there. So I'm just putting my fingers on the frets of these lowest three strings. So that's going to make up the C chord here.
Well, as a child, I mostly spoke inside my head.
Then you go down to the G, which once again, we're only playing the lowest strings here, so you only need those two fingers on there. Then, so it's like,
well, as a child, I mostly spoke inside my head.
Then you're gonna walk down. So every time you kind of end with the G, you do like a.
Well, as a child, I mostly spoke inside my head. Had conversations with the clouds, the dogs are dead. They thought me broken, that my tongue was coated lead, but I just.
So this is where it switches up. It's a D here, so I'm playing these two notes. That kind of creates a low D effect on the guitar. It's out of tune once again, so sorry about that, but so that's going to be the next chord you go to.
As a child, I mostly spoke inside my head. Had conversations with the clouds, the dogs are dead. They thought me broken, that my tongue was coated lead, but I just couldn't make my words make sense to them. If you only listen with your ears, I can't get in.
So it's going to be.
Couldn't make my words make sense to them.
So it goes from the sort of pseudo low D that I just showed you to the C, then back to E minor.
To them, if you only listen,
Goes to an A minor.
listen with your ears.
To C, and this is going to be the classic C because you're playing the higher notes here. So actually played stylistically, let me show you what this part sounds like and looks like.
Couldn't make my words make sense to them. If you only listen with your ears.
So I go back to the strumming pattern here from the intro for this whole part, and it's just the same. It's just these four strings in the middle here.
If you only listen with your ears.
There's no hammer-ons, nothing fancy here. It's just the basic strumming pattern. This thumb is walking up and down between these two strings, and as always, the middle finger and the index finger are staying on the G and the B string.
If you only listen with your ears.
You can kind of milk this part as much as you want.
I can't get in.
I like to throw in a little bit of the intro here. So what I'll do is to roll it back and show you that whole thing and how it kind of all works together.
Well, Well, as a child, I mostly spoke inside my head. Had conversations with the clouds, the dogs are dead. They thought me broken, that my tongue was coated lead, but I just couldn't make my words make sense to them. If you only listen with your ears, I can't get in. I'd spend my evenings pulling stars out of the sky.
So you can jump right back onto the E, just from this G chord. Transition down to the D. Right, just like that.
Couldn't make my words make sense to them. If you only listen with your ears, I can't get in. I'd spend my evenings pulling stars out of the sky. Then I'd arrange them on the lawn where I would lie. And on the wind I'd taste the dreams of distant lives, and I would dress myself up in them through the night, while you folks would sleep in separate beds and wonder why.
So you can do what you want there. If you want to go into the I would recommend leading into it, just like I did that little transition between verses. So it'd be like,
and wonder why.
and that's just the same chords as the verses, as you can see, even that part. And then that would just go to the D, if you want to end it like that. What I like to do there, instead of doing the high notes, is I just play through the whole intro on guitar again. I don't sing that part at all, which looks more like this.
Folks sleep in separate beds and wonder why.
I messed up a bunch in there, but you get the idea. So that part is going to end, and whether you do the singing part and you end like this, you're going to end on that G either way. Or if you do the singing part, you want to go to the G here. And if you just do the chords, you're going to end on that G there just the same. So then to go to the second verse, you're going to go like,
went through them days I was a ghost.
So this part, it's kind of slower and more just accentuated single chords.
And through them days I was a ghost atop my chair.
You're not playing those root chords or doing the crazy stuff with your index finger anymore. It's just one root, then three chords, and then you play the roots here for the walk down.
And through them days I was a ghost atop my chair. Cross he had to bear. In my head I'd sing apologies and stare, while my mom would hang her clothes across the line.
And you come back into the strumming here.
And she would try to keep the empty from her eyes. Until one afternoon I dressed myself alone.
Back to the original strumming. Right? And so then, I mean, you know the rest. However you choose to go about it from there. You can either go into the full pattern from the intro, or do like can't really hit those falsetto notes, and that's one of the reasons I don't do that part. But you're gonna end the song on that D note, that D chord, and it just sounds awful right now because this guitar has been getting more and more out of tune as the video's gone on. And so with that, I'm gonna call it. So of course, feel free to go back into the video and repeat the parts, as I'm sure you have been, that you still need to get down. And enjoy playing the song.
Well, as a child I mostly spoke inside my head.